Look at these tears. I'm crying. Hey guys, what's going on? It's SORROWFUL here, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Pathfinder skills, but more importantly, we're going to be discussing how I feel about the class after seeing its skills and where my thoughts are at this time. But as you guys can probably already tell, man's not hot. Now, before we get into the breakdown of things, what I want you guys to keep in mind throughout this video, and what I like to keep in mind myself, is that it took Nexon about 7 years, more or less 7 years, at the very minimum, like 5-6 years, to actually come up with a new Bowman class. So that's something that's weighing a lot into how I'm perceiving this class, and I think it's something that you guys should keep in mind as well. It's been a long time coming, and a lot of people were looking forward to Archer. Not only Archer fans, but even people who just play the game. Everybody knows that the Archer class has been lacking and has needed a new, as a commenter of mine said, a new face for the Archer class, for the Archer branch. From what I've been able to take away from the class is that, to me, it looks like a crossbreed between a bowmaster and a marksman. Which in theory would make sense, since this is the third adventure or explorer archer. So it makes sense to be kind of in the middle and a mixture of the both. However, in my eyes, I perceive that as a lost opportunity, because Nexon had ample time to come up with something extravagant, to come up with something unique and original, and it might just be me. I don't think it will be, but maybe. But this class doesn't seem to have anything original to it, if you know what I mean. For example, throughout all of the job advancements of this class, they're using skills that look reminiscent of what's already in the game. For example, they have this skill. I don't know the names of the skills, so bear with me. Hopefully you guys could use your imagination and get what I'm trying to say. But they use this skill where they have little projectiles. I'm not even going to call them arrows, because in my book, those don't look like arrows. They're these little dark projectiles that go flying around hitting mobs. That's very reminiscent of Wind Archer's Trifling Wind, as well as it reminds me of Bowmaster's Quiver Arrows. Those go flying out individually as well, if you have I believe the yellow ones on active. So those just look like another very similar type of final attack to the Wind Archer and Bowmaster classes. When it comes to their second or third job, I think it's their third job, dashing ability, it looks very similar to something that you would see in like a Dark Knight or something like that. It looks very similar to, I swear Dark Knight has a skill that looks just like that. Again, my knowledge and my memory might be a little bit flaky, because it's been a while since I really took in all the classes and looked at all their skills and stuff like that. But just in what I can remember, I feel like that's something that Dark Knights have, and it doesn't look like it suits Bowman's at all. I mean, if this was to be a close range Bowman, which it doesn't look to be, then sure, that would suit it, a dash type ability like that. And sure, it's useful in general, but in my book, I feel like that's a wasted opportunity. They could have done something different for the dash. They didn't have to make the archer slide along the floor and do a whirl. That, like, I don't understand how that makes sense in their eyes. Maybe it's just me again. Please let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. But to go on top of that, and why I think it's a cross between a bowmaster and a marksman, is because their attacking ability is not a hurricane, which again is a big yikes in my book. I love the Archer class for their hurricane abilities. That's why I play archers in every game I can. It's because they're usually agile and very fast attacking. This class seems to be more along the lines of a marksman, which I think is a mistake, only because I know that all the other archer classes aside from marksman have hurricane abilities, but at the end of the day, if you look at the statistics, that's what people want. People don't play marksman because of their different and unique archer style play style. So I feel like not going with that hurricane, although some people might say, well, it's contradictory to what I'm saying, because that's just like all the other archer classes, there's still different things they can do with hurricane. If you look at Wild Hunters, theirs is very different. It looks very different, and you can use it on a Jaguar. Off a Jaguar, it has different ways that it interacts with mobs when you're on and off the Jaguar. Mercedes, it looks very different. It hits multiple times. unlike Wind Archers, which only hits one time, which looks very different. So they could have just done the same thing, a little bit different. They have a Hurricane skill, but it's a cooldown skill at 4th job that, you know, doesn't last too long. And in my eyes, it doesn't even look like it attacks nearly as fast as the other Hurricanes. So I feel like, again, that's a mistake, another strike against the class in my books, that it doesn't have a true Hurricane ability that they could just spam whenever they want to, you know, take down bosses. This class seems to have pretty good mobbing, again, which marksmen would typically excel at in terms of linear platforms. I'm not sure if they've gotten anything new to, you know, change that. I know they had split arrow where it would like shoot a buckshot after it hits the first mob, which is super dope. I think now would be a good time to touch on the color scheme. Now, anyone that watches me should and hopefully does know that I'm a huge fan of the dark color scheme. I'm a huge fan of colors like red, black, purple, dark blue. I'm a huge fan of these colors, and I'm happy to see that these colors are well integrated and implemented into this class's kit and into their animations, their skills, etc. So I feel like they did a pretty good job for the most part when it comes to that. I feel like a few skills can be tweaked a little bit just because they look a little too dark. For example, their main attacking skill in 4th job, it's a skill where they shoot an arrow and it kind of does a big AoE, not a big AoE, but a sizable AoE. I feel like that skill is a little too much purple and black, so you can't really appreciate how it looks. It kind of just looks a little bit messy in my opinion. So small tweaks like that on only a few skills would make the class look a little bit better in my opinion. Like with anything else, if you use too much black, it kind of washes out other colors and takes over, and it makes it a lot harder to appreciate true artwork and animation just because of how powerful the color black is. So just to tweak that skill, maybe another skill here and there, but that's not a big deal. I'm very happy with the color palette. It's one of my favorites in all of MapleStory to this time. They even had a little bit of yellow in there with that dash ability, which again I don't think suits the class, but it's a nice touch to have yellow in there, and again with the Hurricane ability as well. Another thing I haven't really touched on yet is the fact that they use an ancient rune system, and personally I don't typically like any class that uses any kind of system like this, because in my eyes what systems like this mean is it's just another gate, it's just another hindrance, it's just another thing that limits your capability of playing the class, because you gotta wait for that gauge or whatever it is to fill up in order to have full potential of the class, whereas other classes are full potential, always ready to go, pedal to the metal all the time. And this class, I think it's even tenfold of that, you know, mindset that I have, because this class again uses an ancient rune system, which is kind of funny because there's an ancient rune weapon type and boss fight in MapleStory 2, so it's pretty cool to see that in MapleStory 1, just a term anyway. But it's an ancient rune system where the more you attack, blah blah blah, it fills up the gauge, right? It's in the game already for multiple classes, so even that, if we wanted to knock at it, is not something new. But it's new on an archer class for the most part. So what I don't like is that it seems to take very long to actually fill the gauge completely up. And the strongest skill that the class seems to have, which is a 4th job skill, only actually works if that gauge is filled up. So it kind of sucks in that sense, because it seems like the only one good skill that they actually have that's very powerful, it requires the gauge to be filled up. And again, it's not that I don't like micromanaging certain things and, you know, having to worry about something external like a gauge, but it's just like, I feel like it's just another thing that limits the class, especially on a class like Pathfinder, which seems to have way too many cooldowns for its own good to begin with. You know, I feel like half of their skills are cooldowns, and if anyone really knows me, they'll know that I hate the Kana class, because of their cooldowns, and they just have so many skills that are just cooldown based. I'm a person who likes to use multiple skills and enjoy my class to the full potential. Cooldowns are something I really hate. I think we could all agree when I say that when 5th job was first released, we were all a bit sad that all of these skills had very long cooldowns. And to see that this class have cooldowns like this, you know, just for the hell of it, it's not exactly reassuring in my sense of what an ideal archer or an ideal class in general would be and how it would play. So the whole cooldown and limiting factor of the class, it really tanks it a lot for me. So before I start talking about the unoriginal skills that this class has, I want to talk a little bit about the original skills that it seems to have. One of them being this fourth job skill where they jump up in the air and shoot a couple arrows downward that explode. Now with this skill, it kind of hurts. It's bittersweet because this skill is a pretty cool concept. I like the concept of the skill. However, I feel like it was not executed to its full potential. What I mean by this is when you use the skill, it appears to be a little bit wonky. It appears to be very lackluster. It doesn't seem to be very powerful. So this skill it seems like a cool concept again, but I feel like they could execute it and tweak it to be a little bit better. Another unique skill that they have is the barrier. They have it looks like various types of barriers, or just depending how you use it. I don't think this skill suits the class at all, if I'm being completely honest. It's an archer class. I don't think an archer class should have something like that. You know, at the very most, it kind of shows the direction of which this archer class is, because they don't seem to be good at bossing. Let's just throw that out there. They don't seem to be the best bossers by any means. Their mobbing seems to be pretty good, like I said earlier on in this video, but their bossing capabilities seem to be really lackluster. It's starting to look like they're more kind of just, if you have one in your team, then cool, you get a barrier, a shield, but I don't know. I don't think the skill suits the class at all, if I'm being completely honest. I'm not saying it's a bad skill. It's a very, very, very useful skill, especially for endgame bosses. However, I don't think it suits the Pathfinder class. I feel like it's just thrown in there again to go along with the this class seems like they just made it within the span of 6 months. So another unique skill they have is this one that is somewhat, it's not very similar, but it's kind of similar to a Xenon skill where they do a AoE around their character, as well as the Bowmaster's Slipstream Arrow, I believe it's called. And it's this fourth job skill that they have that does a bunch of like arrows zigging and zagging all over the map around their character. Really cool looking skill. I kind of like this skill. This is the one skill that's unique to the class that seems to be pretty cool. The color scheme on it is really nice. It's like blue and black. It seems to be a pretty useful skill. It depends on how wide and how big the hitbox of the skill actually is. But it seems to be a pretty useful skill. It's a pretty cool skill, provided you can spam it. I'm not entirely sure if you can or can't, but if you can spam the skill, then okay, it's a pretty decent skill. So that seems like a pretty reasonable skill to have in the kit. Nothing necessarily too bad to say about that skill. That one seems pretty okay. Now let's talk about some skills that look a little bit more familiar. So yeah, Phoenix is another skill that we've seen. The trifling wind / quiver arrows that we've seen. He also looks like a guided arrow a little bit, not too much, but just to throw that in there. They have a dark howling gale at fourth job, or I think it's their fifth job ability actually. They have a dark howling gale. It's exactly like howling gale. I think it's just a little bit slimmer and it lasts way longer, but it doesn't, I don't think it does nearly as many hits or near as much damage percent as the howling gale from Wind Archer's fifth job. So there's that we've already seen. Their hurricane ability at fourth job is reminiscent of a Mercedes fifth job skill, so that's not even, you know, fully new. It just seems like they reused a lot of things for this class, and someone mentioned it during Steve's live stream, X3 the Aaron 59's live stream, that this is like the Archer version of Jet. And honestly, I feel like that's quite true. I feel like it's really true, and I feel like it wasn't properly executed. It feels like it's a very rushed and put together class. They just threw in dark colors over already existing skills and called it a new Archer class. It feels like they came up with this concept within the span of 6 months and not in the span of the 7 or 5 years that they actually had. So overall, I'm very unsatisfied. I'm not sure exactly of the percentages. I don't want to touch too much on percentages because it was only released in the test server. That stuff could always get tweaked. But in the test server, it was a very underwhelming and underpowered class. Usually new classes are very overpowered to get more people to play the class, you know, and enjoy it, and, you know, figure out some stuff about it. What's the pros and cons, see where it's weak, see where it's too strong. But this class just seemed to be very underpowered and very underwhelming, again, in the test server, but that could always change. So that's just something to throw in there as well. But all in all, I realized that it's never a good idea to get your hopes extremely high. It was very hard for me to not do that because I've been waiting for an archer class for so long, and this one had the right looks by its art style. Let me put it this way. My hype for the class when just the artwork was revealed was at a 10. I was extremely hyped for the class. It looked absolutely stunning, still does. It looks absolutely amazing, and again, I do like the color style and palette of the class, but so my hype was at a 10, and now after seeing the skills, if I'm being completely honest, my hype level is probably somewhere around the 3s area now. To be honest, the class doesn't look like it has anything too exciting for me to use. It's just like, it almost feels like I downloaded a different color palette and, you know, color code, and downloaded it onto MapleStory, and I'm using a skin for like a Bowmaster, for example. I know that's going a little bit too far. The class does have some unique skills, as I mentioned, but there's nothing that I'm itching to try out, you know? Like, there have been classes in the past where I'd be itching to play it. I couldn't wait for them to come out. I couldn't sleep at night because they look so intriguing and fun and exciting to play. And unfortunately, I don't feel that way about this class. And now, if any of you out there are sad about that, imagine how I feel. I'm extremely shot down. I'm extremely let down. And to be honest, at this point, I'm hoping that enough people are slightly upset about the class to the point where Nexon decides to revamp them and really try make the class better, like they did with Jet. Jet was awful, and is still to this day is known as one of the worst classes in the games. And they revamped the class after it was already released, you know, and they wanted to revamp another class. I can't remember which class, and they asked the players if they would want, you know, choose A or B of the class. So I'm hoping that they make some serious changes to this class, because there's so much potential. There's so much potential with this class, and that's what kills me. I feel like where have the creative minds of Nexon gone? Are they all focused on MapleStory 2, or are they all focused on new and upcoming Nexon titles? It's a little bit alarming to me to see that they had this much time to create an archer class, and this is what they came up with. I guarantee you, if I was given a month, maybe even less, I could come up with something better, and I can say that from the bottom of my heart. And to be honest, I'm sure a lot of you guys can say the same as well. So I'm let down by the class overall. For anyone who's genuinely made it to this part of the video, type in the comment section below Pathfinder OPAF if you made it to this point in the video. Type that down below, and I'll be sure to give your comment a heart, as well as reply to it with a +1 to let you know that I know what you're saying. And yeah, that'll be our little thing for you guys making it to this part of the video. Moving forward, I do not plan to put the brakes on the series of me doing, you know, the real adventure or the real journey in MapleStory with the Pathfinder class. If that's something you guys still want to see, given what we've seen of the class, then I'll be happy to do that for you guys, because it's still going to be a new experience, still going to be a new class, and, you know, still going to be a good time, I'm sure. However, in the meantime, since this class is most likely coming out to GMS in about 6 months, maybe the summer of 2019, in the meantime, would you guys want to see, there's probably only one person who's going to see this, so you one person out there, would you want to see me do a prequel to the real journey using the art class? I haven't played the art class at all. My art on my main account is level 15, so I haven't played the class, and I do want to play it. So should I make a little prequel to the real journey with the art class to kind of get an idea of how that series should go, and record some videos for you guys, and you know, have a little bit of a prequel to the real journey that's not as intense and solo as I plan to make the real journey to be. So so let me know if you guys want to see something like that, because I definitely want to do it. So yeah, with that being said, let me know what your thoughts on the class are in the comment section right below that like button. and we could have a discussion of what we would have liked to see, and as well as what we are most upset about when it comes to the Pathfinder class. So yeah guys, thank you all so much for watching. This has been Sorrowful, truly sorrowful, and yeah, stay calm, Maple on, and there's always another Archer class that's going to come out in 9 years, right? So here's to hoping for that one to not be flawed. See ya. Peace.